Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Clara Rose. I, of course, am your host, Clara Rose. If this is your first time joining us, let me be the first to welcome you. Every week, I bring topics or education or guests that I think are going to help you be a more savvy entrepreneur or professional or business owner. So, join us every week for something that you can use to be more savvy. Then, of course, if this is not your first time with us and you've been here before, welcome back, my friend. Today, I actually have a guest that I'm getting introduced to you. And you can tell because I have her book sitting right here. And we're going to chat with her about why she wrote this amazing book and why you need to get yourself a copy of this amazing book. But first, let me tell you about my friend and this author of this fabulous book, Into the Light. So Wendy is an author, she's a real estate investor, and she's also a realtor. She worked in the medical field in a variety of settings, actually, to help people to heal from their injuries or traumas. She worked in general medicine, orthopedics. She worked in the rehab unit, traumatic brain unit, ICU, the psych unit, outpatient services, home care, and in pediatrics for the school system. She has owned and operated several home based health based businesses, not home based, health based businesses, applying what she learned in neuromuscular release, which is always an interesting topic, kinesthetic training for children, craniosacral therapy, and lymph drainage therapy to help others in the healing process. Wendy has been a speaker for the Arthritis Foundation and runs support groups for people who are suffering from arthritis and fibromyalgia as well. It is Wendy's desire to live and serve God each day and to give Him glory and honor in her life. She lives in Maine with her husband, Gerard. She has two married sons, a married daughter, two grandchildren, and a son that still lives at home. Please help me welcome my good friend, Wendy Brentow. Are you with me, Wendy? There you are, my friend. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
It is absolutely my pleasure. Now, Wendy and I met, um, gosh, was it last year? Was it last year or the year before? See, I don't even know. It's been so long. At the REAM convention, right?
Right. Yep. We met a couple years ago.
Okay. So Wendy is a fellow member of, or a sister actually, of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network, where we both learned from the amazing Teresa Todd how to invest in real estate. And this particular organization has been a great place to make connections with other ladies who are doing really amazing things, um, not just in real estate, but in other places too. And Wendy, tell me about the process of you finding out about me and how we came about to writing this book.
Okay. So when it all began, when we first met, I was in the Women's Real Estate Investors Network, and it was a great place to connect with other women. And being that I was a stay-at-home mom for 25 years, it was something that was very new to me. I really didn't have a large social network other than my church family. So that gave me opportunity to talk with a lot of women. And I realized that most of our conversations were about 25% real estate investing, and the other 75%, we really talked about what was going on in their lives. And a lot of them had traumatic experiences that they had walked through with God's help, and others were still kind of in a place of feeling stuck. And they didn't really know what to do next. And they may not even know who God was or how God could help them heal. And so I started realizing that there was a connection between what God was seeming to ask me to do and these ladies.
Yes, and isn't it interesting how God does that, right? Because
Yeah.
Wendy shared with me pretty early on after we'd met that God had told her or asked her to write a book, like not just yesterday, but a while ago, huh?
Many years ago, and it wasn't until October, of 2022 did I start to heed the call. He just was, as God can be, um, very patient, but also he very tenacious. He kept after me, and it just felt like he wouldn't let me rest until I finally submitted and said, "Okay, Lord, I will do this for you. I have no idea how I'm going to do this. I've always wanted to be an author, but I never took any classes in being an author. I never really pursued it up until um, I finally was able to be at a point in my life where I realized that I needed to submit to the Lord in this because otherwise I would be walking in disobedience.
Yeah. And that's never a fun place to be when you realize, okay, God is really asking me to do something and I don't want to,
Yeah.
right? Or,
Yeah.
um, and part of that, and I find this with a lot of authors, so you're certainly not unique in this. They just don't know what to do next, right? They make the decision, okay, I'm going to do this, but they just don't have any idea
Yeah.
how to make it happen. And that just is like anything else, it's about finding a professional to help you, right? To take
Yeah,
that.
and I think that's another reason I feel so blessed to be in the REIN group, the Real Estate Investors Network, is because that's I met you and
That's
you
right.
helped and you helped me through that whole very scary process. At the time, I thought it was scary because it just seemed like a mountain that I didn't know how to climb. I didn't have the equipment, I didn't have the knowledge to be able to do it, and you made it so simple um, and that you led me one step at a time through the process so that all I needed to be really focused on was walking in obedience and writing for God. And you took the rest of it, all the how tos into your own hands, and you led me, and so that was really helpful.
It's just like Reen did for us, right? We knew what we wanted. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay, Teresa, our fearless leader,
yeah,
just tell us what to do next, right? Because
exactly.
you
Do
don't
the next
know.
thing.
Yeah, the next
Yeah,
right step. That's all you need to
yeah,
do. So let's talk
exactly.
about this amazing book. I have it sitting up here, of course, so that everybody can see it. It turned out so beautiful. I'm so incredibly proud of this work. It's a big old book, right? It's not skinny. We have like 35 chapters in it. So this book
Yes,
is actually so in the event that you can't read it, Into the Light, Trauma to Triumph. It's a woman's guide to healing from trauma. It's absolutely about um, helping you move through trauma, whatever kind of trauma.
right.
And that was the thing that Wendy and I really discovered in the process of this book is that shared experience. So many women have just been through something in their lives, right? Something
Hmm.
they've some sort of trauma that they've either moved past or they have never figured out how to move past, right? This is truly for them,
Yes.
right? To help them
Yeah,
find.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it can be any time of a type of trauma. I mean, some people interpret trauma very specifically, but what I found with working with people over the years as an occupational therapy assistant, but also in private practice, but then in addition to just the conversations I've had with the women who God's brought into my life, is that trauma comes in many different forms. It could be a childhood trauma. It could be from a car accident. It could be from a diagnosis of a terminal illness. It could be a relationship trauma. So it comes in many different forms. I've worked as a foster mom for 10 years, and so I was witness to a lot of home violence situations. And so we're trying to work with those moms and children to help them to reunite. And at the same time, trying to, provide a safe place for the children to live and to heal was also something and part of my experience to help me in writing this book. And I did refer to that some of the trauma that is involved in those aspects as well in the book. And at the beginning of each chapter, there is an experience shared by each um, woman who contributed to the book, and it's pertinent to whatever is discussed in that chapter. And that's so important for them to feel like they can find their voice again. They can talk about this. They can move through the healing aspects. And that is addressed like in the beginning of the book. What is trauma? What is the definition of trauma and how these women can, if they choose to, work with other professionals who are trained in counseling to help them heal from trauma.
And find a way forward, right, through it. So, what I did love about each of the chapters is that truly seeing other people's story is really powerful, right? Seeing somebody else or reading somebody's story of something that they've gone through actually gives you hope, right? Because you can see what someone else has been through and go, oh wow, yeah, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person that's been through this, right? And then the second
Yes.
after the story, so we have the shared experience is what we call them. Um, then we have recognizing the truth, and that's actually where Wendy has shared the truth, right? The truth that God has revealed to her, which this was definitely a download, right? You have lots of experience that you pulled from for these chapters, but so often God just like poured stuff into you, right? Just kept pouring stuff into you. And she would text me or message me or something and say, I've been up since 5 writing like a crazy person. Because it was a download of sorts.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think through this whole writing process, God would wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, just about every morning. Um, and during this time, I was very busy with real estate and real estate investing. And I know that it was the time to write this book because of what he was telling me, but also because he allowed me to become very sick. From January through March of 2023, I was very sick with the virus, and it really affected my heart, my lungs, a lot of internal organs, and I was shutting down. And it wasn't until I just fully surrendered to the whole writing process that God said, "You can do this, and I'm going to help you." And every morning at 3 o'clock, despite the fact that I was so sick, I would get up and I would go out to the couch and I would write for him. And it was a quiet time during the day. And I would sleep for a few hours and I'd wake up and he would want me to write again. And it was just a continuous process. In March, I started to feel a little bit better. So I went outside during one of our last snowstorms here in Maine and I fell on the ice and broke my left arm, which is my dominant arm. And I said, "Now what, Lord?" And he says, "You're going to continue to write." He still got me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I propped my left arm up on the pillows and I started typing one handed. And he helped me complete this book. He had a mission for me. It was just a matter of me being able to stop long enough to listen to what he was asking me to do. I didn't have to understand why he was asking me to do it. I just needed to obey. And so he gave me the strength that I needed, and he gave me the words that I needed to share every day.
What a beautiful picture of just God's provision when and perseverance, right? Just saying, "All right, Lord, I'm just going to
Yes.
do this," and then He makes a way because that's the way He
Yeah,
is,
he
right? He
does.
pre- He it
He
gives
does.
us what we need to pull it off. So,
Absolutely.
tell us about this lovely cover. It has actually some meaning to you.
Yeah, it does. Butterflies are, to me, they symbolize just the whole process of healing because the butterfly the starts off as a cocoon, and so that's a time of pulling in and just being held in God's arms and just allowing yourself to be quiet and to heal. And then once you are healed, you just come out of that cocoon and that butterfly, it just opens up with beautiful colors and such freedom that it just symbolizes that freedom from bondage to me. And that with the symbol of the butterfly, that freedom coexists with the flowers that are also on the cover. The flowers, this book was dedicated to my mother. My mother went through a lot of turmoil in her life and she also fought breast cancer. And so she always loved to tend her gardens. And so when we think of her now, we always think of her tending her gardens in heaven. So there's a lot of symbolism of this book. My daughter, Amanda, helped me to select some of the flowers on the book. And I think it was you, Clara, that we talked about butterflies and just kind of helped me find one that really resonated. Purple was her favorite color, and so I just really love how it all came together, and I hope it gives other women the encouragement to work through their journey of healing.
Yeah, beautiful. It actually, when the cover, we started mocking up designs for the colors, and she gave me the pictures. I started pulling it all together. There was a moment when, with the light behind the butterfly, there was a moment of a catch of your breath, right? Where you
Yeah,
just like catch your. I'm like, oh, this is it,
that's it.
right? And I sent it
We
off to
absolutely
Wendy.
knew.
Yep, and she's like,
Yeah, we absolutely knew.
that's it. That's the one. Yeah. Would you just
Yeah,
totally capture what it is that, because the cover is a
yeah,
promise of what is in the book, and this just captured so beautifully into the light. You know, the light is the sun
yes.
behind it. So beautiful. So
Thank you.
completely proud of you for this hard work and for how amazing this book turned out. It is absolutely way more work than anyone ever knows that a book could possibly be. You know, it's hours of pouring your heart onto a page, and then somebody else comes along and edits it, right? Edits your baby, if you will, right? And so then it's healing and growth, and so many incredible things happen when you write a book. Very therapeutic, if you didn't know that, but this book takes it a step farther in that it's it's also healing in other ways. So I do want to point out the way that it's sectioned out, and we've talked about it a little bit. So each chapter, I know you're going to get your hands on a copy of this book, but what you're going to find when you do is that each chapter is separated out by a lovely little butterfly telling you where you are in the book. And then the experience, right? I told you this experience is going to come next. And then following the experience, the truth, right? The things that God revealed to Wendy as she was working through this, called recognizing the truth. And then there's a fair number of scriptures woven in that, just from years of being a believer, um, Wendy being a believer, and just the things that God has used in the Word of God to impact her
Mhm.
life are all just scattered throughout this whole amazing book. And then each chapter ends with a healing affirmation, right? Something that you can, um, on a daily basis, just say. This one right here just happens to say, I am strong in the Lord. So just an affirmation that is healing for
Mm.
your very soul. So beautifully put
Yeah,
together.
thank you. I think that it's worthy to note too that during this whole process, it was a healing aspect for me too. Just when sometimes when you're recovering from trauma, you think you're healed. God reveals yet another layer, and that was happening as I was writing this book. So I'm very grateful for that process as well. I also found that when we all just got together in Dallas, Texas recently for the Women's Real Estate Investors Network, Clara, you were with me. I was moved so deeply. Um, when women were coming up to me, some that I knew and some that I didn't even know, but they had somehow heard that I had written a book and what the topic was, and they were there, and they would come up to me and they would just, hold my hands or give me a hug and just thank me for taking the time to write this book because it was something that was so needed for them and for other people that they knew. And I had a similar experience with the people that I worship with. They, when I contacted our gospel publishers, which is a publishing company that distributes books within our church organization, they really wanted to review the book for distribution in the church because they said even within the church there is still trauma that people go through, especially women. And there's not really many resources for them to refer to work through their healing. And so that was such an encouragement to me, because always when I'm working for the Lord, I'm trusting that He's giving me the information that I need to share with other people. And so again, that was just another validation that this is God's work.
Yes, it was actually quite impactful to be at Green Live and have all of these women just keep coming, right? They just keep coming
Yeah,
and
I
talking
know.
about the impact that this book is having. And truly, as the editor, editing all of these stories, I just wept a lot, right? Seeing all of the what all of these women had been through, and then just the whole thing was like 6 months of
Yeah.
crying editing this book. Super, super impactful. But watching the ladies, how it impacted them,
Mhm.
and then women who their story isn't in the book saying, "I want to be in your next one," or "I have a story to share too. I want to be in your next one." It was a very moving
Yes.
experience for sure. So proud to be
Yeah.
a part of this. Now we're running out of time, so only about 5 minutes left. But I just want to. I know that you're headed somewhere else. God is using this tool. Tell me what the next step that God's calling you to. You want to
Okay.
share?
Yeah. So now that I understand that, this is not one and done, that God wants me to continue this work. And I love to write for Him. So I think that there will be an opportunity for women to go to the website that I set up, and that's wendyparentobooks.com. And you can share your experience. It's Wendy Parento Book Experience at gmail.com. Or you can contact me directly into the light resources at gmail.com. And the reason why I did that is because, like Clara was saying earlier, is so many women had come up and said, I have walked through some traumatic experiences and I would like to share them in your next book. And I heard that so many times. I went and sat next to Clara and I said, apparently this next book, get ready. Um, that is one aspect. I'm also finishing up some training, additional training for becoming a certified Christian coach. And I'm working through a program now that's helping me to be able to bring this information um, more broadly to women who would like to know more about how they too can heal, and just a way of encouraging them and coaching them, and especially, if they're already a Christian, to just kind of deepen and strengthen their faith. And if they don't know the Lord, it just hopefully will give them an opportunity to know the Lord so that they know that they're never alone. God is always going to be with them.
And that's one of the things that uh, reading this book will just show you over and over and over how God's faithfulness to do those who didn't even know him, right, before,
That's right.
his faithfulness to them. And then I love that
Yeah.
God is calling you to do something that is unexpected to you, right? Because that's just the way God
Yes.
is, right? You're like, oh, look what God's asking me to do, right? And you're like, I feel so not equipped to, but God doesn't call those who are equipped, right? He calls us and then he
Right.
equips us. And that's totally what he's done. And I am super excited to see where he takes you in that next um, step, that next process. I want to, evolution is such a funky word, but it's kind of that next evolution of your life, right? Where God's asking you to step
Right.
into coaching women toward the healing process. I think that's so exciting, so
Yeah.
beautiful. And I will forever be grateful that you hired me to be a part of this project. And I look forward to, many more amazing books that come
Yes.
out and amazing things that God does through you and through us in this creative process. Okay, is there
Thank
anything
you.
before we run out of time entirely? Is there anything else? And we have like 2 minutes. Anything else you want to share with our audience before we go today? Any last thoughts?
Um, yeah, I think that if anyone that is listening to this broadcast, that if they have an opportunity to just trust in God and just reach out to Him, that He will reach back to you. It may not be in a way that you expect, it might not be in a way that you understand, but just walk out in faith and don't be afraid. He will guide you every step of the way in your healing. And if you ever want to reach out and talk to someone, just don't be afraid to go to the website. And again, you can just reach out to me at into the light resources at gmail.com, and I will respond.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be on the show. I know that my viewers will enjoy this interview with you, and I know that some will say she's the one for me. I need to reach out to her. I know that some people will connect you, but thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you soon. All right, guys. Wasn't she absolutely amazing? When I first met Wendy, I knew right away that I just was going to love her, but we've just developed such a great friendship. She really loves the Lord, and we've really just connected. I look forward to all the amazing things that she's going to do. And of course, as new things happen and new books come out, you know, we've talked about a journal, we've talked about some other things. As those things come out, I'm going to bring them to the show and show you so that you know what exciting things that Wendy has going on and the amazing things that she's doing in the world around her, making a difference in the world around her, which I totally believe we are all called to do. Okay, my friends, we're out of time today, but I want to just encourage you if you um, need somebody like Wendy to reach out to her. Otherwise, I will see you back here next week, same time, same place, to bring you more cool stuff, either guests or trainings or something to help you be more savvy. I will see you next week, my friends. Take care.